Hey everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Hotel West End in beautiful Nice. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Master Spas. As fuels go longer, HOKA Let's Fly, deboer wetsuits, Form Smart Swim goggles, Zoot Sports, the original triathlon brand, Quintana Roo, Premium Plus Sports, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, Olympic rower, professional cyclist, professional triathlete, Ironman champion, Mr. Cam Wurf. We have an audience. How about a round of applause for our guest?
It always blows my mind how two people can sound so loud.
Isn't that great?
That is
it's
great
awesome.
for my ego. I really appreciate that, guys.
I know. Got all the Aussies who live in Nice showed up, which is really cool. So finally, we have an Ironman course with a really challenging bike course, which is great for you.
Yeah, no, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is nice.
Pardon the pun. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it's very different to what you would normally find in Kona. I guess the way Kona's evolved since my time there, as the bike has just got faster and faster.
Right.
And so that's obviously turned that course into quite a fast course, because as we know, the swim and the run has remained relatively unchanged,
the same thing,
but
yeah.
the bike is. And obviously Sam, took it to a whole new level last year. So this is very different. I was riding the course again yesterday. I've obviously been here a number of times. I've even raced the race. You just feel like you're going uphill a lot.
The whole time,
right?
right?
And the downhill, I mean, obviously there's a downhill at the end, but even then, it's not like, just a drop, where you just sort of bomb down it and...
You still have to pedal.
You still got to pedal it. There's corners that you think are corners, but... they're not really, so it helps to know the road a lot. There's a lot of speed humps. There's, it's you got to be alert. You just never get a rest.
Right.
It's not like you just like in Lanzarote earlier in the year. There was a lot of climbing, about the same sort of climbing, but the descents were much more straightforward. Where you could actually, I can recover on this one. I can just go as fast as I want on this one. It was very much straightforward. Whereas this, you just don't get any rest all day.
All day long.
And just the amount of times you just feel like you're at 1 or 2%, just grinding. You kind of want to back off, but if you back off the power too much, you slow down a lot.
Right.
And if you keep on it, you can obviously make a big difference. So it's really exciting to have a course like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and also the downhill will make a difference, right? The way people attack the downhill, or if they don't attack the downhill, they can lose some time.
Yeah, I think it's more you don't attack I think the difference between everyone that's capable will be very small on that descent.
Right.
I mean, everyone's done it. All of the main, I guess, guys would generally be around the same size.
Right.
So, there's the physics of it would indicate that I don't think anyone's going to make a big separation.
Okay.
On the downhill. I think there'll be a bunch of guys that are very good and very competent. There might be some that aren't as competent, and they're going to obviously pay for that. But it's certainly not that difficult, that anyone with a crazy amount of skill can make it a huge advantage. It's more that there'll be some that aren't confident, and if you touch your brakes too many times, you will lose a lot of time down there. But I think the bigger difference will be made on the climbs. You're just riding uphill for a very, very long period of time, and if you can have good legs, I think you can make a big difference.
It's funny, little things make a big difference. This is an in-water swim start, and at the same time...
I didn't know about. You went to the practice swim yesterday, and I'm glad I did, because, firstly, for me, I haven't raced a lot for a long time, 4 months or so now, I guess, and I always, like to blow the cobwebs out. And so, it was great to just go through the motions. I'm quite sore today from it, because you just don't ever swim that hard normally, in training. Or at least I don't. But then speaking to Rock afterwards, said it'll actually be any more to start, which is quite good, because when I did jump in, I whacked my foot on a rock.
Oh, the rocks are bad.
Yeah, I obviously didn't quite jump out far enough. That's more like Kona. So I'm glad I found that out, because I've got this week to practice that again, because I haven't practiced for 12 months. So. But no, I think coming from rowing, I have quite a good, feel for that part.
Right.
It's sort of like moving the boat. You don't want to rip the water, because you pull too hard, you lose that momentum. You sort of need to, I found, get the boat moving a little with your kick, just a split second before you engage the hand, just so you get the most out of those first couple of couple of strokes, because otherwise if you just get too aggressive with it, your hand just sort of slips through the water and you haven't gone anywhere, which is very similar to a rowing start. So sorry to divert there.
Not at all. But in the past, haven't really had a big block of training, triathlon-specific training, leading into Ironman World Championship, because you're a professional cyclist. You had other obligations. You feel you've had more time this year?
Yeah, but even when I was just racing Ironmans, I tended to find other races to, interfere with the preparation for Kona and call it part of the preparation. Fallon, my wife particularly, has been one that's, I just don't race. Like, I tend to always have a really good race leading in.
Yes.
And, a bit maybe lackluster.
Like Italy.
Yeah, exactly, like in Italy. And even in 18 in Almere, I had a really good run there.
Yes.
Yet, if I'd had that run coming off
Kona.
the bike in Kona, who knows? I had an opportunity like Sam had, and I couldn't capitalize on it. So, yeah, this year we decided let's go all in for this. Save the bullets, see what happens.
Right.
I mean,
we've tried the other way,
so we may as well try it the proper way, I guess, if you like. I'm a massive admirer. To me, it feels great to be. I'm a massive admirer of Mark Allen.
Yes.
I feel like I can I sort of feel like I relate to his story more than, say, Dave's
right.
got. Dave's sort of like the yarn, I guess, whereas Mark is kind of like more like the guy that we can all relate to. We can all aspire
took him 7 times to finally win it.
Yeah, and he won this race,
10.
so many times, and I've always sort of thought, if I'm ever going to win in Kona, I have to be able to win here first. And I've tried the other race a couple of times, and I've finished 3rd and 4th. So I've got another opportunity to try and win this one, but just following the things he changed in his 8-hour days,
right.
the long ride, the small swim, that's what I did yesterday, and I've done 4 or 5 of those in the preparation. I live in the mountains, I take myself away. I'm up in the mountains, I'm climbing my bike up those things, I'm running up the climbs. I really admire his story and the way he did things, and I've really tried to sort of, implement as much of that of what I know. I don't know Mark well at all. He's never, I guess, really had a lot of time for me, but I just admire what he's done, and so I feel much more comfortable coming into this race with that preparation. I feel like I can see why he was so successful on this course, and also obviously in Kona. But
right.
It's Nice first up, so we'll go for this one.
So when you came here and just finished 4th at Ironman France, and that was a week before? Did you do Austria?
Yeah, so I had to qualify. I mean, this year was a tricky one.
Yeah.
Obviously, last year was a bit of a tough pill to swallow with how that all panned out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is what it is. I had to move on from that. Yeah, I got a bit of a scare in Lanzarote where I thought, I could basically sandbag the season and win races, and I blew them all the way on the bike, and Sam included, obviously.
Yes.
And then thought they'd just give up, like I felt like in the past that I could just sort of jog through and win. Anyway, 2 guys came from the clouds and ran 2:38s or something, Arthur Horsu and Nick Heldorm. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but huge. Both have won Emberman now. So very good athletes. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And I missed out on qualification. So that was a real kick in the teeth. And I was like, okay, I've got to go to the next race available, because I'm obviously probably good enough to qualify at the moment. But race just with that mindset. Don't try and be a hero. Fortunately, I was able to put myself in a winning position and then have, time to sort of calculate things. I was able to sort of control the effort to make sure I qualified.
Right.
Obviously, Matthias passed me and won the race, but I certainly wasn't going to fight him and try risk not qualifying. Your spot.
Yeah.
So the idea was making sure I could qualify sort of as comfortably as possible at that point, and then, a week later was Nice, and we'd actually driven to Austria, so we'd driven straight past here on the way there. We actually stayed a night here on the way to break up the drive. We had to come past here on the way back.
What the hell?
Of course, once I rolled into town, I couldn't not do the race, and I was really glad I did, because even yesterday riding the course, you ride it and you can see it, and there's bits you can see, but I was out there actually with Fjord, who was 3rd in Austria, and qualified for the Worlds there too. And he was on the descent. He was sort of like trying to follow me, and he asked me a few questions. I said, mate, look, I'm happy to answer whatever question, but in reality on race day, it's so different than when the cars are there and the traffic's open.
Yes.
So it's I'm really glad I got to do it when it's under race conditions, because it looks very, very different to what it does when you're out there training.
Well, and a lot of times if you've done a long climb, you sort of recover at the top.
Yeah.
But you're not recovering on race day because people are attacking.
Yeah.
Totally different gig.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, everyone's going to have their different, strengths. You know, I know there's probably a lot of some guys that think they are demon descenders or bike handlers or whatever else. So, there'll be people coming at you from every angle all day long, and that's just the level of the sport now. I mean, not a lot of guys, I mean, I guess I'm one of the vulnerable ones with my swim and my run, but not a lot of guys have a real weakness anymore, and almost everyone has a real strength. And so that really makes so many guys a factor,
right?
Because it just depends on how the dynamics of the day go. Can bring a whole bunch of guys into play that you never really sort of counted on.
I know.
And so I'm glad I've had the beatings I've had the last couple of years, because I really respect everyone. And
well, it's funny because when
I think that's important.
When I'm doing prep for this, so many people I've never met before.
Yeah.
Where usually we're in Kona, I know 90% of the guys who are going to be a factor.
Yeah.
Where here there's a lot of 23, 24, 25-year-olds who are, you look down, he ran a 2:35 marathon at Frankfurt. What the hell? Yeah. So there's a lot of talent.
Yeah, there is. I mean, you hear, unless you're in the race, it's very hard to judge.
Times. Yes.
It's like people have said about this and that, and I guess what guys do, and I just say, unless you're there, you just don't know, because you'll see someone do quite well, yet then when you race them, it's like, well, that I didn't see that. So it's quite interesting how the dynamics of the race can affect people's performances or particular legs of the event. I mean, I guess particularly running is a crazy one. This year, obviously Frankfurt, but we've seen other races where I think in was it Israel?
2:30.
Crazy runs, but then again, they'll go to a different course and sort of nowhere near that. So unless you're there, that's the great thing about the World Championships. We all know we've got to be at our best.
Yes.
And we've all known the date for, not quite 12 months. And it's the winner's the winner.
So when you came and did France, since it was a week afterwards, I'm guessing you weren't showing your cards and going full out on the course. You were sort of just checking things out and getting a feel for it.
Yeah, the thing is, back in 2018, 2019, when all I was doing was Ironman, I would have no trouble trying to race. And in fact, when I actually did Roth, usually after Nice, I did better in Roth all the time. So because I had the conditioning. This year, I hadn't at that point. I'd been racing on the bike all the spring, and I was basically trying to get through an Ironman to qualify off the back of the cycling fitness with a bit of muscle memory from swimming and running. And that meant that an Ironman took a lot more out of me than it normally would. So I was definitely quite tired. So if I was going to race, I had to be smart, because I didn't want to just try and be a hero and get in front and drop everyone and then blow up halfway through the bike, because then you don't get a feel for the course.
Yes.
So I had to really measure my effort. And it was, quite a bit off, what I guess I've done in the past on the bike. Yeah. If I compare it to, say, Lanzarote, and it was probably about 10% difference in power. But, with that taking off that 10%, I was able to do a pretty consistent bike leg. I did actually blow up on the last climb, about a K from the top, just before you started the big descent. I was just, running on vapors, and just the power started to drop, the heart rate started to climb. So I had to try and gather myself, and out of respect for the event, and barring a catastrophe, I wasn't pulling out.
No.
So I knew I had a run to do as well. But that was important, to be able to do those climbs at a good steady pace. Obviously, I plan to be a lot faster next week, but at least we could get an idea of the pacing, the heart rate, the heat, how hot you get, and etc. at those paces, and sort of extrapolate that to what we think I'm capable of doing.
Right.
And I'm glad. It's like one of those ones, coach said, sort of leave your ego at the door, because of course I would have loved to have gone out and tried to be a hero a week later, but in reality, I knew I had to. It was a great opportunity to collect some great data. And in the end, I actually had a pretty solid race.
You had a really solid race.
And I was trying to sort of run myself out of it, pardon the pun on the run. I thought once I get off the podium, I can really take it easy, you know, because I just didn't want to put myself in a big hole. But, you know, Christian kind of passed me, and then he just wasn't going anywhere. So I ran back up to him, had a chat to him for a bit. You know, I asked him how he thought the bike course was, and he's sort of looking at me like, we're racing. I was like, mate, come on, surely you're not racing. I mean, I didn't know what he was doing. Like, I thought he was taking it easy too anyway. And all of a sudden he was on the side of the road and pulled out of the race. I was like, oh, what did I say? Anyway, so all of a sudden I'm winning again. And then finally Clement caught me. So that was good. And I was able to then settle into a rhythm. But it was forever until Bart Arnott's caught me, I think, the last lap.
Yeah.
So then I was only back to third. And then the guy passed me for third, about 4K to go. So and at that point I was like, do I race you? And I was like, this is the point you hurt yourself. Leave the ego at the door, you know, like fourth's good. You know,
fourth is fine.
You've had a great day. You've had a great day's training, and we had a holiday planned in Greece the following week, and we'd been looking forward to that for a long time. You know, just to let the body really recover before we started this preparation. And I didn't want to get to Greece, you know, hobbling or you know, not be able to carry all the luggage for the family. So. So it was a good day, and as I said, learned a hell of a lot, and you learn how hot it can be out here on the promenade.
You know what?
On a Sunday afternoon.
It's been really surprising. Each day we've been here, the afternoon gets really hot.
The thing is, you can look at the temperature in a seaside town. It's irrelevant.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't tell the story.
No.
And it's really unescapable. I arrived here earlier. One was for the swim, but also 2 weeks ago I went to some bike racing in Belgium. And I said to Fallon, let's go down a day before to Barcelona. I'd like to swim in the ocean. And when we just walked over to the beach, you just felt the humidity. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. We haven't been to Nice, you know, training this like we have done in past years, you know, when Richie Porton, you know, he's now stopped. And, you know, Froomey and Jet, we're all on different schedules. So I haven't been down here. But I was like, I've got to go early and do a proper long run down there just to remind. And yeah, I mean, it's the only place in the world I ever go running where your socks get soaked. You know, like your shorts are soaked, your socks are soaked. I mean, it's just a different humidity, and it's quite suffocating.
Yes.
And and I guess that's what, you know, you'd think it's a pretty easy run, you know, flat and all that. But after that bike course and, you know, the heat, it's certainly going to test some people.
Well, and it's, you know, the crowds are going to be crazy, and it's easy to get out of your comfort zone when you got people cheering for you the whole time.
The French love their sport, you know, that's for sure, and they love triathlon.
Yeah.
And people are in for a real treat with that, you know, and they're very parochial. They love this town, you know. Nice is a very proud sporting town, not only as well. So. Yeah, that's certainly a big part of it. That was another annoying thing about the race. Everyone was just like, God, I can't make it look like I'm not trying, you know. I got to, you know, because I just wanted to hide, you know, and just sort of enjoy the rest of my day. But they just stay on you, you know, but they cheer like they believe in you, you know.
Even when you don't.
Exactly, even when you don't. So I'm glad I had that because I'm gonna need that, I think, on Sunday. You know.
Yeah. But this is good for you, having a flat run course.
For sure. I mean, you know, a harder bike and then a flat run is much less daunting than, say, a run in Kona. You know, it's quite rolly, and you know, the runners are more accustomed to the changes in rhythm and everything. You know, I mean, I run quite a bit on the treadmill in Andorra just because I live up on a mountain. So I guess a flat just grind is something that's more attuned to me. The good runs I've had have all been like that. So. Yeah, you know, it's everyone says, "Oh, you're going to check out the run course," or ask me about the run course. I said, "Oh, you'll get a good look at it on lap 1, and then you'll know where you're going for the other 3."
Do you feel like with, you know, you got, like you mentioned Patrick Lange, or you mentioned 230.
Yeah.
He's done that twice now with Roth and with Israel. Do you look at it and go, okay, I've got to have X amount of time off the bike? Because you've become such a better runner than you were a few years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, 230 is phenomenal.
Yes.
You know, it's incredible. If you get off the bike with him, then you're probably going to sign yourself up for a pretty difficult back half of the marathon if you try to go with him. But if you get off with any lead, you know, and he doesn't catch you until, you know, a couple of hours into the run, well, all of a sudden at that point, you know, like that running that pace for that period of time, it becomes possible. And I mean, for any of the guys,
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be, any of the guys that happen to be up there and see him coming. I mean, they should believe they can probably try and react, to hold that. Yeah, I mean, going out from the start. But, we've seen that if he does that, he needs obviously quite a comfortable bike leg to be able to do that, because if he's pressured on the bike, he's never shown he can run anywhere near that speed.
Right.
And if you look at Roth, I mean, he gave away, people were talking about how fast. I said, yeah, but if you look at it in reality, Patrick, was only 10 minutes behind or 8 minutes or whatever, and he ran 2:30, so he was quite fresh. Whereas in Kona last year, he was about that far beyond, but he ran 2:40.
Yes.
So, I'm not too concerned about Patrick, on a course like this.
With a really tough bike ride.
Well, not running a 2:30 anyway, and if he does, then he'll probably be coming from a fair way back. So
that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. And it's funny, because I was talking to Magnus the other day, and he talked about, a lot of people don't think he's too big. He's too big for this course because there's so much climbing. But his feeling was, the grades aren't that steep. There's still a power climb type of course that he feels is good for him.
I 100% agree. I mean, power. It doesn't matter how big you are if you've got the horsepower.
Right.
So, if you're strong, I mean, it's all power to weight. So the bigger you are, you just got to have more of it. I mean,
which he does.
Filippo Garner tends to climb pretty much okay. And, Wout van Aert, Matthew Van. I mean, I think Magnus is. I got no idea how big the guy is, but he's big. Obviously,
tall.
He's tall. That doesn't mean he's heavy.
No.
And he's. He seems to have been very, very consistent. It's a shame what happened to him in Kona last year, because we probably didn't I don't know. I mean, he's been very good in Roth, obviously. Then he's sort of had his ups and downs. We've also never seen him, completely right away from a field before. I don't really know what to expect from him. I mean, because personally I've not, seen him really race that much. So, at this level, it was one time in Kona, and I guess when I went past, he was in the penalty tent, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I mean, he's very, very good. He seems to be able to swim well. He can obviously run well, and he can obviously ride, very quickly on, fast courses.
Yes.
And it's going to be very interesting to see, what he can do here. Yeah. Danes are very strong on the bike at the moment, so he should be very confident, I would imagine.
You mentioned Mark Allen, and Mark was saying, when he made the decision in 1995, that was going to be his last Ironman.
Yeah.
That it was really freeing. He went into the race he says, I've already won this thing 6 times. I got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You look at Jan Frodeno, he said, hey, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
And you start playing with a little bit of house money. If I don't have, I'm still a 3-time Ironman world champion, and I've still got all those accolades.
Yeah.
He can really do whatever the hell he wants and still be great.
Yeah, I actually thought exactly that about Jan today. I mean, someone asked me, who were the favourites, and I said, Jan's a favourite because it doesn't really matter. He either wins or he doesn't. He wins, it's obviously not that we need any proof of what he's achieved, but, it's another feather in his cap and a perfect way for him to bow out.
Right.
If he doesn't, as you say, he's won it before. It's not even in Kona. He's had a good year, really. He's
Milwaukee,
been able to fight back.
And
Andorra did the half Ironman there, which he was able to win. So I'm with you. I really don't think he's
not going to feel pressure.
No, he's a massive competitor. And without a doubt, if the race is raced on his terms, no one's going to beat him. I mean, I said to, it was must have been when I got back from my holiday in Greece, and at that point Jan had won in
Milwaukee?
No, he'd won in Andorra,
okay.
but the Roth had happened with Magnus and Patrick. And Kyle Smith, his training partner, was talking to me saying how, wow, the level, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, guys are really good now. I said, but mate, I'll tell you this for free. And you can quote me on this, but Jan is still the standard of the sport. And you'll see that. I said, Jan is still the standard. I said, the big difference is there's a lot more guys that are sort of just below
nipping at his heels.
And they're all very good. And sure enough, went to Milwaukee.
Killed
what
everybody.
happened? I said, I don't care if they rode 3:30 on the bike. It doesn't faze me at all because I wasn't there. I don't know what the circumstance. All I can do is look at the facts of the event, the 2:30 marathon, the blah, 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 blah. We'll see. And sure enough, next race out, we saw exactly that. So, Jan, of course, is the man to beat.
Yeah, well, it's funny. 42 years old, doing a race in Milwaukee, which is not an Ironman. It's less than a 70.3.
Yeah.
And he still dominated.
Completely.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he had gears to go.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they can, whatever happen, whatever their reason. As I mean, this new generation, they're very good, but we just don't know, you know. We just don't know the consistency, what they're going to rock up with on the day. We've never seen a lot of them on course like this, you know. So, I mean, they could be phenomenal. But, yeah, I mean, that's what the exciting thing is about the race on Sunday. I mean, to be honest, in Lanzarote, I mean, I had a reasonable swim. I held Sam at a good margin. I held the gap on the bike pretty well. I thought, whoa, you know, he was sort of holding me for the first 40, 50K, which was the first climb and then a descent. But then there was the hard part where I'd planned to push. And all of a sudden I was 5 minutes in front of him. You know, I'd wiped that out very quickly.
Yes.
You know, because I'd never seen him ride on a course like that before. I had no idea his actual capability, you know, strength or whatever. And so, yeah, that was quite an eye-opener for me because, of course, you know, I was, you know, thinking about Kona and what I had done to do what I'd done, you know, there and on the bike and subsequently in a bunch of other races. So I kind of expected this guy just to be on his worst day, at least as good, you know, maybe as me or slightly better. But for him to be, you know, a long way back was a shock. So, yeah, but then again, that's the first time he's probably raced a hard course like this, and he would have learned a lot from that.
Yes.
And the reality is, he's got in his legs a pretty superhuman type performance. So you can't rule him out. I mean, not that you can rule him out, but he is certainly a huge threat. You know, I mean,
all of them.
And you could go through the entire
Skipper,
field.
I mean, everybody. There's
Joe,
so many.
Joe,
and then all the French guys.
Yeah, the French guys. Yeah,
There's a whole collection.
You've obviously got Clement that won here. You've got Leon, you know, I mean, Joe. I mean, Joe's always going to be a factor.
Always.
And Joe, with all due respect to Joe, and I think he'll sort of admit this, you know, he's at this level, he's probably never going to take the bull by the horns. You know, he kind of is prepared to maybe, you know, do his own thing and sort of bank on people doing something stupid and, you know, and falling away. But those people are super dangerous because if you do get it wrong, they're going to make you pay for it, you know, because they're always there. You know, they're always consistently strong. So, yeah, we've got
it's gonna be
really
fun.
exciting field. And, I mean, the swim, as always, will probably shape a lot. Maybe not as much because of the bike being so hard, but definitely a big factor. And
can you win this thing?
Of course. I wouldn't be here otherwise.
I thought so, yes.
I mean, of course, I've got. Well, I believe I can.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, and... you know, I did the training that I wanted to do. You know, I got to have a few months where, you know, stacking the weeks and, you know, the days on days and the weeks on the weeks and then the months on the months. And in the past, you know, I've always raced well off the back of that. Yes. And so I got to have the confidence. I've done enough of these things now. I've done probably more than most people in the field, the amount I race.
You've done 8 in 1 year.
Yeah, I got a lot of experience. And I feel great. I had a bike race last week in Belgium. I did a stage race there. I did a one-day race in Germany on the Sunday, a couple of days off, 5-day stage race. And, you know, that's probably known as the most dangerous bike race of the season.
Yes.
That's a World Tour race. It's in Belgium. You know, there's carnage everywhere. And, a couple of my teammates lost a lot of skin. But I managed to stay on my bike, you know, and I've come out of it. Racing there is so hard.
Yeah.
You know, the last day I was actually in the breakaway trying to win the stage. And... yeah, I feel really good. You know, it was a big risk to take because it was either you get through it and you get a nice bump in fitness, particularly for the bike, or you crash and maybe you ruin everything.
Ruin your season, yeah.
But I was like, hey, you know, you realize last year that you get limited opportunities like this. You know, at this level, you get one a year.
Exactly.
And you've just got to go for it because at this point in my career, you know, the only thing that'll change anything is winning. You know, I mean, maybe being on the podium, but certainly winning or being on the podium, you know. Yes. So, you know, trying to be top 10, top 5.
You've done that.
I've done that. And and I've taken, I've decided this year to just go all in for it. Yeah.
Love it. Cam, always a pleasure, man. Thank you for always taking so much time.
Pleasure.
Round of applause for Mr. Cam Wood.
Here they go again.
Like it.
The whole build-up.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We will catch you next time. See ya.